a member of the Catholic Church.
Love the Catholic Church. It's just the best place to be.
From the studios of EWTN, this is Open Line. In North America, call toll-free 1-800-585-9396. That's 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985. You can also send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Happy Wednesday to each and every one of you. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to join us here on EWTN's Open Line. Father Mitch Pacwa is in the house, and we'll be talking church teaching, ancient languages, scripture, any of those topics. Father Mitch would be happy to answer your questions at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. If you're outside the United States and Canada, your number is 1-205-271-2985, and we will put you straight to the front of the line at 1-205-271-2985, or you can send us an email, openline@ewtn.com. I'm Jack Williams. Elena Rodriguez produces the program. Our call screener is Mr. Matt Gubinski, and our host, as he is every Wednesday, EWTN's favorite son, Mr. Father Mitch Pacwa.
Favorite son?
I think so. Don't you think so?
It depends.
Judging by the fact that the phone lines are full by the time I introduce you every week, I think you're a pretty popular
so you weren't
dude.
Including Doug Keck in them.
No, they already know. They already know.
Oh, they sure do.
You know, I was telling you before the show, before you do that first email, on yesterday's program,
yes,
I made fun of Dr. Ray Garendi's mustache.
Yes, and
I said that
there was a problem.
I said that there was it was a tremendous pro-life stance that he took in 1973 by vowing, regardless of how unfashionable it became, to never shave that mustache until Roe v. Wade was repealed. And he has stood by that promise. And I had a voicemail from Dr. Ray waiting for me when I got back up to my desk after the show yesterday.
Yes,
and he was explaining to me that the reason he has that mustache is it's a symbol of the stalwart nature of the Catholic Church, that it never changes and never goes away depending upon the swirling and prevailing currents of the culture that surround it. And so I just wanted to make that clarification so that Dr. Ray will be able to sleep tonight.
Well, I think that if there was fun to be had at his expense, it ought to be had by all.
I like that.
Thanks.
All right, Father Mitch, you got an email?
Yes, we have some emails here. This is from Toby McCulloch. I said back on October 7th, Toby, I just got this today. A very anxious gentleman, challenging to the faith and spouting off remarks at a rapid pace, made a statement I would like to have clarified. The caller insisted that man was first created along with every living thing, and insinuating a sort of recreation as if man already existed in some primordial form before God said, "Let us make man in our own image." Father Mitch, if you can afford the time, please give us the beautiful story of male and female as you made them, and with your insight express to us the most intriguing truths of man at the lips of God. Well, first of all, I'll do my best, but it is important to note that humanity was created at the pinnacle of creation. It's the high point in Genesis, and that man was not created with the others. And this was also true not only in terms of the biblical days, but also within the history of natural science, that the water critters and the tiny little ones that float around in the water, single cell and stuff, existed long before Homo sapiens, and most of the animals existed before Homo sapiens too. There are a number of animals that no longer exist that were around at the same time as Homo sapiens. And I keep hearing various dates now. I was looking up some points, and that Homo sapiens goes back, some would say, to 200,000 BC, others to only 50,000, which I find interesting. And that they've been tracing back human DNA. But to say that everything, I remember that caller because he did seem a little anxious, and he just sort of blurted that out that that man came with all the other animals from the sea. Well, that's not quite the way, maybe Aquaman, but nobody else has flippers or anything. So this is not quite the case. But rather, God not only makes man as the high point of creation and makes man in his image and likeness, having knowledge and free will, which the other animals don't have. They don't have the knowledge of abstract truth and the craving for the truth. You can stand there and talk to your dog, or I can talk to my cats all day long and say, and we're going to have honey buns, and you're going to have gold cushions, and also I could say all that stuff, none of which is true. And they wouldn't know that I'm lying because they don't know what I'm saying. They have no knowledge. It's just blah, blah, blah until you hear the opening of a can of cat food. Then they're interested. But apart from that, they're not. Or dogs outside. And then they're interested. Right. They know a few words. Humans have that capacity of knowledge and free will and the ability to give themselves to each other. In being in the likeness of God, the Trinity, where self-gift is the norm of life within the Trinity, that's also a human capacity. And that is most highly brought out in the way that man and woman give themselves to each other. And from that comes new life. So this is, very different than what that man said. And I don't know what he was trying to get at exactly. But it wasn't what's either in Scripture or in what we see in science.
We've got time for another.
Yeah, real quick one here. Father Mitch, the Booster Club at my parish is hosting a poker party as an event for the athletic programs this Friday. I was made aware that the people organizing the event did not follow the proper licensing laws with the government to hold such a fundraiser. If I were to participate as a player, would I be guilty of the sin of stealing, since I have knowledge that money which should have gone to the government is actually remaining with the Booster Club? It's from Mike. Mike, no, I don't think it would be a matter of stealing. Because, in fact, I don't know the laws in Michigan, but in most states, when a charitable organization has such a fundraiser like a poker night or whatever, they get to keep all the money. I don't think any of the money or any of the revenue goes to the state, but the state wants to make sure that it's regulated and done honestly. That would be what I think, at least in most states, that's what the state does. Michigan may be different. Lord knows they need money. But this is something that we should go through the state. I don't recommend doing it without the control of the state, but instead make sure that you have this process done correctly. But wouldn't be a matter of stealing. It's just bad order.
Just getting started on an open line Wednesday. If you've got a question for Father Mitch, the number's 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America. If you've got a question about church teaching, ancient languages, or if you've been told on another day to call back and talk to Father Mitch, today's your day on Open Line Wednesday.
EWTN Radio is drawing people of all races, nations, and walks of life to the life of Christ.
My father has a physical disability. Because of that, he cannot always make it to the Mass. Thanks to EWTN's airing the daily Mass, he's right there following along.
With satellite radio, I can listen to any show on EWTN's Catholic programming.
EWTN, truly the global Catholic radio network.
One of the essential questions in the modern debate between atheism and theism is whether physical reality and time itself had a beginning. If it did have a beginning, then theism would for sure be vindicated. But if it didn't, then perhaps the atheist could hold out with the hope of an eternal universe without a creator. Which view does science give credence to? In 2003, three of the most respected physicists, Drs. Alexander Vilenkin, Arvind Borda, and Alan Guth, demonstrated that any model of physical reality that has an average expansion rate greater than 0, whether it's our universe, a multiverse, or a bouncing universe, even within the higher dimensions of space and string theory, has to have a beginning. And if a beginning, then it would need a transcendent creator in order to receive its existence. To learn more about this topic, visit our website, magicenter.com. I'm Carlo Broussard, apologist and speaker for the Magis Center, with your Magis Minute.
Podcasts of Open Line are available within 24 hours of live broadcast. Go to EWTN.com and click on Multimedia.
Hello, this is Bill Donahue from the Catholic League, and you're listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Remember to like EWTN Radio on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/EWTN Radio Network. To the phones we go. Our leadoff hitter today is Richard in Kirkland, Washington, listening on Sacred Heart, AM 1050. Richard, you're on with Father Mitch.
Yeah, hi. My question is on 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and verses 29 and 30. It's a very complex chapter, kind of a long one. But these two verses sound like they come out of the Book of Mormon. right before 29, 28, it says that Jesus will have everything subjected to him except the Father. And then 29 says, otherwise, what do people mean by being baptized on behalf of the dead? Mm-hmm. If the dead are not raised at all, why are people baptized on their behalf?
Okay, now, first of all, you have this backwards. This does not sound like the Book of Mormon. Mormonism sounds like this verse.
I'll buy that.
Well, I have to, because that's historically the fact. This is written in the year 54 AD.
Right.
So, and I don't remember whether what was the. Let's see. Does the Book of Mormon actually mention baptism of the dead? I don't think so.
Well, no, but I mean.
No. It's not. So it doesn't sound like the Book of Mormon. Even within the Book of Mormon, it's not there.
Not the Book of Mormon. I was being, but the way the Mormon is baptized.
Yes, that's Mormon practice that came after they had after Joseph Smith had written the Book of Mormon. So what's your question then?
Little section in there.
Mm-hmm. Well, what's the question?
Well, the question is, we don't baptize the dead.
No, we don't. And
why is it in here? I mean, how is it in here in this little section? And then he goes off on again another tangent kind of after that. But
this is one of those things that is in Scripture and a practice that the Corinthians obviously recognized, but it is not mentioned anywhere else, is it? It never occurs again. And it's not mentioned, it's not explained in the apostolic tradition, nor is it explained anywhere else in Scripture. So it was a very perplexing thing that then in the 1840s, I believe, is when the baptism for the dead, I'm not positive when they started baptizing for the dead in the Mormon Church, but I think it was in the 1840s. That's when you see a lot of their rituals were developed. When the Joseph Smith was arrested in Missouri during the Second Mormon War in northwest Missouri. And he remained imprisoned from November to the following April of about 1839, I think it was. And by the time he got back to Illinois, he was able to bribe his jail guards with some money and a couple of bottles of whiskey, and he escaped across the Mississippi River to Illinois. And at that point, what's his name? Brigham Young had already gotten lots of Mormons to join the Masonic Lodge. In fact, the largest Masonic lodges west of the Ohio River were all Mormon Masonic lodges. So a lot of them apparently got into it. Later on, they split and they got out of the Masonic Lodge, and the Masonic Lodge separated from them too as mutual. But a lot of the ceremonies, the secret ceremonies of the Masonic Lodge became the secret ceremonies of the Mormons. And I believe it was in that time that you start to see the baptism for the dead also going on, as they have secret marriage, the marriage for time and eternity go on in the temples and so on. So that's a somewhat later development of Mormonism, and what it meant at the time of St. Paul is just not known. So I leave it in silence. Does that help?
That's fair.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Father.
Sure.
Thank you, Richard.
It's a very complex chapter anyway.
It is. It's an important chapter because the main thrust of that chapter is to understand that, A, the resurrection of the dead had not already occurred. That doctrine, for instance, has also been revitalized by the Jehovah's Witnesses, who said that Jesus came back first in 1874, but then later on they said he came back in 1914. And the idea that Jesus has already come back and that the resurrection of the dead has already taken place comes and goes as a doctrine. Paul says, no, it'll be absolutely clear exactly as Jesus had said. Secondly, you also see that the resurrection of Christ is a real physical resurrection. He rose, his body rose from the tomb. The tomb was empty, not because anybody stole it, but because his body was raised up, as St. Paul says in that chapter, a spiritual body that has been glorified and not a mere resuscitation, as say was the case with people like Lazarus or the son of the daughter of the widow of Nain. All right. Thanks for your question, Richard.
Next stop for us is Indianapolis, Indiana. Frank's in Indianapolis, listening on the EWTN app. Frank, what's your question today for Father Mitch?
Yes, thank you. Happy to talk to Father Mitch. And
thanks.
Love everything you have, and I recommend people to listen to you all the time. Just wanted to ask about fasting, and I am 2 times obese. I say that because I'm 100 pounds over what I should be, but
okay.
I know you refer about potato chips and stuff like that all the time, and I conscientiously am trying to stop using potato chips, and I'm doing pretzels nowadays, and I was wondering if that was okay, and about fasting.
Okay, a couple things. Just in terms of, you actually have a similar problem with potato chips as with pretzels, because both are high carbohydrates. And what happens is they turn into sugar. And as such, depending on how much of them you eat, if you don't burn up that sugar through physical labor, then that sugar turns into fat. And you would, it'd be good to talk to a professional at dietary stuff, but it's instead of those simple carbohydrates like pretzels and potato chips, it's partly a matter of learning to readjust your taste buds towards things like broccoli. As a matter of fact, I've often told people the only white food you should eat if you have diabetes is cauliflower, because the other white foods tend to be simple carbohydrates that will turn to sugar and then to fat. Cauliflower doesn't. And also cauliflower, like broccoli, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts, are all anti-carcinogenic, in addition to being very healthy for you as snacks. And the reason that they're anti-carcinogenic is that even cancer doesn't like them. But it's good to, in terms of fasting, the church only requires 2 days of fasting a year, requires Ash Wednesday and Good Friday. But one may fast any time one likes to. And it's not the same as going on a diet. Fasting is an abstaining for some higher spiritual purpose. Dieting is abstaining for the good purpose of maintaining your health. And it's a very good thing to readjust what you eat. That's just good sense. At 100 pounds overweight, you have a high risk of not living very long. Not as long as you could or should. And I'm sure you have lots of great gifts God gives you. And it's not just about looking good at the beach or wherever, but it's about also saying, okay, Lord, you've given me this body. I want to use it to the best of my ability so that I can serve you with it. And that means maintaining, just like, I take in my truck to change the oil every 3,000 miles. And the thing runs like a champ. You got to do all the other maintenance stuff too. But it's very important to do the same with your own body. And, not that carbohydrates are bad, but try to get complex carbohydrates, not what they just call whole grain, but when you can start chewing on grains when you're eating bread, that's whole grain. And that's what I like to eat. Prefer that. And old-fashioned oatmeal, not sugary, high-carb cereals, but old-fashioned oatmeal.
Honey, walnut, maple, no.
No, not even instant. The instant oatmeal. You when you eat breakfast, it shouldn't be stuff. A lot of the high carb stuff, like the cereals they buy, is like putting newspapers in a furnace. It burns up quickly in flames, but then there's nothing there, and you're hungry again. But you're not burning up all the sugars. So get complex carbs and things like that, and vegetables, good meat. I like meat. That's very efficient protein. And other good stuff for protein.
Thanks so much, Frank, for the phone call. We'll head to Gilchrist, Colorado. Glenn, listening on shortwave in Gilchrist. Glenn, what's your question today for Father Mitch?
Hi there. How you doing? First of all, Father Mitch, I want to say that I consider you the utmost authority in biblical history.
Well, that's a mistake. What can we do for you today, Glenn?
Okay, I heard Mother Angelica a while back, and she was talking about excommunication, and she was talking about, all the people that in government, that abet and support, abortion and things like that need to be excommunicated. Mm-hmm. So my question is, why isn't Pelosi and Biden and others in government, why haven't they been excommunicated yet?
Well, for one thing, not everybody gets what they need. And here's a little more less smart aleck response. The excommunication is a very, very serious penalty, and it's not administered lightly. So, for instance, what would be a preliminary step to that would be withholding them from communion without formal excommunication. Usually formal excommunication includes teaching formal heresy. Now, with Ms. Pelosi, there's something, the kind of false teachings, false statements she makes. But I don't know if it's formal that she's ignorant or informal that she's ignorant, or formal that she's trying to teach falsehood. But you probably, the way most bishops and canon lawyers talk about this, start off with someone withholding communion before you move all the way to excommunication. And I strongly recommend look up Dr. Ed Peters on the internet. Ed Peters, one of the best canon lawyers in the country.
It's the start of a new day for Morning Catholic Radio.
Thank you for joining us this morning. So I have to ask, what made little old you invite the Pope to your prison?
And remember, we are recording this.
And we're live.
Unmitigated gall, perhaps?
Hey, that's awesome. Morning Glory, Catholic from the start. Weekday mornings, 7 Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
60 Seconds with Mother Angelica.
Do you know yourself? Nobody knows himself. That's why if somebody says, "Why are you so impatient?" you say, "I'm not impatient." Or, "Why are you so angry all the time?" Who's angry? I'm never angry. Okay. We don't know ourselves. You know, I've told you that there's so many of these mystics have said that the Lord would come one day and give us a warning, that we would see ourselves as He sees us. Oh, that would be a shock, huh? Somebody sent me a videotape. We watched it the other night. These people who had death experiences, they all saw this light, but what they all saw was themselves. And they were surprised. Well, if you know yourself, you wouldn't be surprised, would you?
The people you know and trust are on EWTN.
EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
It's Wednesday. That means all Father Mitch all the time. Tonight on EWTN Live, you're going to talk about praying for reparation.
Mm-hmm. We're going to have Father John Horgan to come in. As a matter of fact, to be related to that earlier question about fasting, that, making reparation for the sins that are committed, of all kinds. We see so many wide variety of terrible sins committed. The terrorists killing innocent individuals, the horrible killing of innocents in the wombs, turning mothers against their own children. We see a great rise in suicides, where people who have no right to take their lives do so. We didn't make our own lives. And we want to do reparation for this as a way to also seek to end these various sins.
And then that's tonight at 8 Eastern on EWTN Television, and Friday night on EWTN Television, also at 8 Eastern. Father Mark and Doug welcome Seth DeMoore from 1billionstories.com. Again, that's Friday, 8 Eastern on EWTN Television. Next up for us is Lisa in Denver, Colorado, listening on Denver Catholic Radio AM 1060. Lisa, thanks for holding. You're on with Father Mitch.
Good afternoon. Hi, Father Mitch.
Hey, what's up?
I just have two quick questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking in anticipation of the year for mercy and the Pope's recommendation to read Divine Comedy, I'm looking for a good English translation that maybe you might have for like a high school level, something easy for folks to pick up and read, as well as maybe a study guide that we might be able to follow.
I've been going through the translation of the whole Divine Comedy that was published by, I believe, Penguin. I can't remember the translator. However, I must say that I have found the notes very, very helpful. They, because throughout, the Divine Comedy, Dante is being taken through hell, purgatory, and then heaven, and he meets all these individuals that are extraordinarily obscure to us. We have no idea who most of these people are, but they were well known in Italy during his day, and so that has been a trend. Plus, he Dante, like any other educated person, was well aware of ancient Latin literature, very well aware. And he makes all sorts of allusions to the Latin literature. And I found in this, the translation, wonderful notes showing, links that sometimes I've forgotten, sometimes I remember. So that's been a helpful one. Did you find that one online there?
I did not.
No? Yeah, but that's been the one I've been using, and I've been very satisfied with it. We also have some at EWTN's Religious Catalog, do we not?
Yeah, if you just Google Divine Comedy, or Dante for that matter, at EWTNRC.com, there will be several options there. And really a lot of the descriptions of a lot of the descriptions, you're not going to get anything on there, Father.
Okay. I was looking to see what you
Father's
had.
Father's troubleshooting my computer here in the studio.
So. No. I was looking to see what you had there from Religious Catalog, what some of the titles were.
Yeah, we have a little update that the computer's trying to run that's keeping me from doing that. So.
All right, but that would be another thing, because I did do that show, and I've been following my own advice by rereading the comedy. I hadn't read it dare I say 40 years?
Oh, my gosh.
Hey, watch it. Thank God I'm not defensive.
So, Father, you did a show for EWTN some time ago, and
yes.
Would they have it available on DVD?
Yes, that show is available. I don't remember the date I did that program, but it was, I think, September. I think it was mid or late September. Yeah, and that's around, and the two folks who are experts on the comedy, which I'm not. Remember, for me, the modern world begins in 200 A.D.
Right.
Yeah. So, but it is really good to reread it. I'm enjoying it immensely. I really am enjoying it immensely.
All right, so I should check the Religious Catalog?
Religious Catalog for some of the books there.
And the publisher Penguin's annotated version.
Yes, and believe me, I've just found that very readable. The English translation, I can't attest to its accuracy because I don't know the Italian of Dante's time. 14th century Italian is not something I know. But it seems very readable, and I think that a high schooler could do well with it, and to read it every day. Just read one canto a day or a couple cantos a day. That'd be enough to get him started.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Thanks for your help.
Thanks,
Sure.
Lisa. Appreciate the phone call. Next stop, Dallas, Texas. William, listening on Guadalupe Radio, AM 910. William, you're on with Father Mitch. William, are you there?
Yes.
There you are.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hello.
William, go right ahead with your question for Father Mitch.
Okay. My question, Father Mitch, is about indulgences during the month of November.
Yeah.
I want to know what you need to do that as far as the visiting the cemetery.
I'm not hearing him very well.
Yeah.
I can't. I'm afraid, William, I can't hear you.
Okay.
Yeah.
My question is about indulgences during the month of November at the cemetery.
At the cemetery. Do you know anything about that?
Indulgences at a cemetery during November.
Is there anything special about that?
I don't know of any particular ones. I know that certainly on All Souls Day, you can receive a plenary indulgence for a soul in purgatory. And with any plenary indulgence, it is always necessary that the person seeking it be in the state of sanctifying grace, have received confession 10 days before or after, received Holy Communion within the same period, and then offer prayers for the intentions of the Pope. And those are necessary for getting any plenary indulgence. And you can get one plenary indulgence a day. I don't know of anything special about praying in the cemeteries, but I just haven't heard anything one way or the other. You may want to take a look at Susan Tassoni's books on the souls in purgatory. She's one of the nation's experts on praying for the poor souls in purgatory. She's written about 4 or 5 books on it, and they're good. I like her books. So that would be what I would recommend. But I don't know of any special ones for cemeteries.
Thanks so much, William, for that phone call. And Father Mitch, I don't know if you'll give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. I think I know which way you'll go. But for Lisa, who called in a minute ago, I finally got our update finished here on the computer. But at the EWTN Religious Catalog, there's a new translation of Dante's Inferno by Anthony Esselin, who I know is a fantastic author. And I'm sure that's something maybe you would recommend.
Sure. I would highly recommend it, but I believe it's only the Inferno.
You're exactly right.
And I don't think it's
right.
The entire Divine Comedy. I think I don't know if he's finished the others or not, but it's for something that had all 3, it's amazing to me how at the bookstore you primarily saw copies of the Inferno. And, it seems that people were more interested in hell than they were in purgatory or heaven. I don't understand it.
Goodness
but
gracious.
The Inferno is fantastically written. But yeah, that would be a good one for the Inferno. It would be a fantastic one for the Inferno. But in terms of the entire Divine Comedy,
Penguin's got the whole shooting match.
And I'm very happy with it. And I say that as a non-expert in the comedy. So there'll be others who know the translations better than I.
Holly's in Cincinnati, Ohio. She's listening on Sacred Heart AM 740. Holly, thanks for calling. You're on with Father Mitch.
Hi, Father Mitch. How are you?
Fine. Thanks, Holly. What can we do for you?
Well, my sister has a mother-in-law who just recently died. She had a very rare disease, and she donated her body to science.
Okay.
All her children were raised Catholic, and I don't think they're planning on any service for her or anything like that. What can I do to impress upon my sister how important, I'm sure you have funerals without bodies at times. So,
sure. Oh, yeah.
Do you have a mass? Do you have
Yep.
just a...
Yeah, you have mass offered without the body being present, and that is I've done such precisely for those situations where people donated their body to science, and that's totally fine. The only thing that we ask of the recipients of the donated body is that when they are done, the body be buried respectfully. No, it'll be in parts, of course, because they'll be dissecting it. That's normally what they do. Sometimes for funeral homes, oftentimes for schools, medical schools where they're training students in how to do dissections. And that's all fine. But I remember when I was at Vanderbilt University, 2 of my classmates were medical students. 2 not classmates, but 2 of my roommates were medical students. And at the end of their first year, they both were strongly committed Christians, and they attended a service to bury the bodies of that were donated to their department, because it's usually in first-year medical school that they spend the whole year dissecting a body. And so that's what they did. That's a good thing. But before that, it would be good for the family to have a funeral mass. And if the family doesn't think that praying for their soul is worth doing, then Holly, I would ask you to go ahead and do that. And, have mass offered for the repose of that person.
Okay. Thank
All
you,
right.
Father Mitch.
You're welcome, Holly.
Thank you, Holly. Straight ahead, we'll talk to Janie in Boise, Idaho, Brent in Michigan, Myrna in Texas, and we've got plenty of time for your phone calls at 1-800-585-9396. That's toll-free anywhere in North America, 1-800-585-9396. Open Line Wednesday with Father Mitch.
This is Al Cresta, host of Cresta in the Afternoon, and Cresta in the Afternoon looks at all of life through the lens of Scripture and the teaching of the Catholic Church. Church teaching is the light by which we view the world, and so we'll explore everything, from abortion to Hollywood, and from the First Amendment to the United Nations, and everything in between. Following St. Paul, we're seeking transformation through the renewing of our minds. So that's Cresta in the Afternoon with me, Al Cresta, weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
Get an insider's look at the latest information from EWTN. Sign up for Wings, EWTN's weekly email newsletter. Get the latest information about live events, special features, and guests. Connect with EWTN on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Just go to EWTN.com and click on the Wings link to sign up. Don't miss a minute of all that's happening at EWTN. Get your wings today.
Hi, this is Dr. Ray Guarendi. Thank you for listening to the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.
This is Open Line on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. If you have a question or comment, call 1-800-585-9396. Outside North America, call 1-205-271-2985 or send an email to openline@ewtn.com.
Thanks so much for tuning in to Open Line Wednesday. We're entering the home stretch. Next up for us is Janie in Boise, Idaho, listening on Salt and Light Radio, AM 1140. Janie, you're on with Father Mitch.
Hello, Father Mitch.
Hi, how are you?
You again. I'm good. Listen, I was having a discussion with a friend of mine the other day, and a mutual friend of ours has got a girlfriend and is planning on getting married, and he has been married before, and I have no idea about the circumstances of his first marriage, nor does she. The only thing that I was trying to get across to her was annulment has nothing to do with infidelity later on in a marriage, but it has to do with whether the marriage was in proper form in the first place, whether they were, properly married in the Catholic Church with the right intention. And I just wanted to find out if I was correct in that.
Yeah, you are definitely correct, and that this is something that is you can't say that it became annulled later on. The annulment would be something that happened at a later point. Or, at the beginning of the marriage, that it was invalid to begin with. So, and that's what has to be determined. And if you don't know much about the case, the person would need to go to the local pastor and check out what was the situation. Are there grounds for the annulment or not? Usually the grounds are various forms of deception, sometimes willed, sometimes unwitting. For instance, a willed deception would be when a person knowingly and willingly says in a marriage ceremony that they'll bring up kids according to the laws of the church, but then they secretly intend not to have children at all. That would be grounds for an annulment. They lied to their spouse. And there are more than I can go through at this point. We'd just be guessing at what might be the grounds. But it would be good for the person to go check with a local pastor and see what might be, what's going on with this marriage, that it went wrong, and was it wrong at the beginning? That's the question. Does that help?
That does help. And now, are there any books or anything that give you some good guidelines that maybe I could direct her to?
Yes, as a matter of fact, EWTN Catalog has a book that was written by one of my guests. I had this woman on some years ago, and she has been working with the tribunal in her diocese for a long time, and gave a very good book that gives all the different points and the process of going through the annulment. Now, I believe it's at Religious Catalog, but I cannot remember the title exactly. Jack is frantically trying to find this.
Our lovely and talented producer, Elena Rodriguez, is also frantically finding that.
And
As soon as we get that title, we will pass it along.
Do you mind if we go on to somebody else, and we will announce it as soon as we find it?
That's good. I will continue to listen, and thank you so very much.
Thank you, Janie. Appreciate the phone call. We'll head now to Brent in the great state of Michigan, listening on Ave Maria Radio, AM 990. Brent, you're on with Father Mitch.
Hello, Father Mitch.
Hi.
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
Maybe a real quick question. I'm a convert, and I just want to say I'm so happy to be Catholic. I can't even.
Isn't it fun?
Oh my goodness! I was on the lifeboat. Now I'm back on the boat, the real boat. All the sacraments. Oh, I just give them all to me. If I say a grace, I'll take them all. But my question for you was that I've thrilled and empowered by the grace of God, I decided to join a lot of the early introductions to the Catholic Church, like RCIA, and also like worship committees. And I just had a question for you. I was in discussion with a lay minister, and she was telling me that she did not believe in confession, and that she thought that, the simple, like I used to hear as a Baptist, God can hear your prayer, and that you don't need a priest. And I was extremely disturbed by that.
Well, you should be.
Yeah, I was, because I'm like, I'm excited about this, and you're trying to take away my joy here.
Well, I don't think that she's trying to take away your joy. She may be more concerned about what a priest thinks of her if she goes to confession.
Right.
That may be more to the point.
And that's what we were discussing was about in the worship community. I was trying to express that we have to let people know about the power and the beauty and the grace and the joy of the sacrament. Bring them in, remind them of what we have. And I just thought, as a lay minister, is it possible for her to continue to do that?
It's not.
Level,
well, first of all, if she makes that publicly known, then she should step down till she resolves this issue and rejoins the Catholic Church, or accepts the Catholic Church's doctrine. What you may want to do at the outset is, again, I keep mentioning Religious Catalog today, but there are so many great resources, and one of the books I wrote is called Go in Peace, which is from EWTN Religious Catalog. You can get it there. And it is 101 questions on confession that are most commonly heard. Why don't you get a copy and say, look, as I'm a convert, and I still need to know more about confession. Would you mind if you and I read this together and see what we can learn from it together? If she refuses, then you may want to go to the pastor. If she is interested and wants to learn, then follow it through, and she just may be working through an issue of her own, and that might help her to do so. That's our goal, is to get her reconciled. Okay?
Definitely, Father. I definitely will. Like I said, we're so lucky and we're so blessed to be Catholic, and you exude God's joy every time I hear your voice. So praise be to God.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks.
Have a good day.
Thanks for the phone call. Was your guest's name Rose Sweet by any chance?
Sounds right.
and her book is called Rebuilding After Divorce.
That sounds like
Making Your House a Home. So, Janie, if you're listening, Rebuilding After Divorce, Making Your House a Home by Rose Sweet is available at EWTNRC.com.
That may be it. I'm not sure. This was more of a how-to book on how to do annulments and how to go through it. That may not be quite the right one.
Okay.
There still is another, but I know that we did that some years ago. It's just been, after all these years, I'm starting to have them add up. Let's go now to Hope.
Heading to Plano, Texas, where Hope's listening on Guadalupe Radio, AM 910. Hope, you're on with Father Mitch. Hope, are you there? Yeah, go right ahead, Hope.
I'm here.
Great. What's your question?
My question is when they come out with how they started with the fathers and the popes couldn't get married.
Okay, this was something that developed gradually at first. You began to see that, as with St. Paul, for instance, a preference for the unmarried clergy. Now, there were lots of clergy who were married in the early church. St. Peter, of course, had a mother-in-law, which you don't get to have a mother-in-law unless you get married. So, St. Paul wrote about some of the bishops being married, and he insists they can only be married once. They can only be the husband of one wife. They can't be, widowed and then remarried, or certainly not divorced and remarried. But then, as you begin to see into the 2nd and 3rd century that a preference for unmarried clergy began to arise, and you see some regulation already of married clergy at the Council of Nicaea. And then over the next centuries, you see more and more local synods and councils begin to say that, no, we want the clergy to be celibate. Now, some of them said that you can have a married priest or married bishop, but they may only live with their spouse as a brother and sister. They may not have intimacy. So that was, and then finally they just moved all out towards, by the 5th century, you already see them full-fledged calling for celibacy.
And very quickly, Janie, there's another book by Rose Sweet out there called How to Understand and Petition for Your Decree of Nullity.
That's it. That's the book.
How to Understand and Petition for Your Decree of Nullity. And also we had Myrna wanting to know about curriculum for religious ed for Down syndrome children.
And you can get, it's called St. Mary's Curriculum. And there is a place called autismreligiousEducation.net.
Would you leave us
and
with a
that
blessing?
would have with a number of other books related to that topic. Lord bless you, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
See you tomorrow.